Okay, so I'm done with the vacuum chamber portion. For the most part, I don't think I'm sucking much more air out. I think I ran this thing for probably about an hour or two yesterday. I just kind of set it aside and did some other stuff. So, really, I don't think that I'm going to get a whole lot more at this point. Now, you do see a few bubbles coming up, but I don't really think it's coming out of the wood. I think it's just trapped underneath this stuff. So, throughout the process, again, I stop it every once, or not stop it, but I crack the relief valve every once in a while just to kind of, what that does is it's going to introduce pressure again, and it forces the resin into the wood. And so you'll see your level drop, when you crack that. The other thing I do is every once in a while I'll just kind of tap it, move it around, and that just helps to get some of the trapped air bubbles from underneath the wood parts out of there. I don't think it really makes that much difference, but anyway. So what I did was I finished this thing up last night, and one of the most important things that you want to do when you're stabilizing is you want to leave it, let it soak. So crack the pressure, completely let the pressure off and let it just soak. Now I just leave it in my chamber. I don't think it really hurts it. This resin doesn't affect the PVC pipe in any way, so I just leave it in there. And like last night, I just left it overnight. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's not going to hurt anything. So you'll get the maximum soak, and you'll get the maximum penetration of the resin into the wood. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top off here, and I'm going to get rid of the majority of the liquid. I'm just going to dump it out. And again, the cactus juice is reusable, so anything that's not in the wood, which is this stuff, whatever's not penetrated in, you can just reuse it because you haven't actually baked it, which is the next step. Once you've cured the resin, then obviously you can't reuse it, but as long as you haven't cured it in the oven, it's good to go. You can reuse it. Now curing is different than catalyzing. Catalyzing, you just need to drop those, however much the bottle into the gallon, or however much quantity you're using. You got to catalyze it before you use it. But curing it means you're baking it in the oven. So I've dumped out the excess, and again, reusable. Now right here I got aluminum foil ready to go. So make sure you wear gloves at this point, because you're going to be touching the liquid. And frankly, if you have longer ones, that's even better, depending on how long your tube is here. So take that out. Now what you want to do is just kind of wipe off the excess resin. You don't need a lot of excess on the surface, because when you bake this, it's going to harden, and you don't really want to harden the material. So just try and get as much excess as you can off. I'm just kind of squeegee it off with my glove. And then what you're going to do is wrap it in the foil. I use a little too much foil there, but okay. So that's one bangle core. Okay. Now, as for the chamber, this is water washable, so I just take it over to the sink and use some soap and water. Same with this little piece. Okay. They're slippery, watch out. And I definitely wipe off the lid a little bit with some water. I'm going to seal these things up and store them for the next batch. But then as for this, we're going to go over to the oven and bake it right now. So we'll head over there and I'll show you what I'm doing over there. Alright, over at the toaster oven, like I said, I have this thing preheating. The reason I like to do that is so that I can check this gauge, this thermostat is not accurate at all. It can range 100 degrees sometimes. So what I do is I turn it on and I like to check. I have an oven thermometer in there that will give me an accurate reading of what the temperature is inside. This stuff, you want to cure it at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, a little hotter is not going to hurt the stuff, but what will happen is it'll cause more bleed out, so it won't be as good of a stabilization process, basically, you know. So under 200 and it ain't going to cure. So, you know, that's why having something that's fairly accurate is kind of a good idea, especially if you're going to do a lot of this stuff. Now, I haven't ever had any problems. The things cure fine. Everything's good. So what I'm going to do, I'm looking at this thing, and it is like right over 200, and it's been sitting there for a while. So grab yourself some oven mitts. I like to use garden gloves, something leather that's not going to burn you. Better. Switch that around so I can keep the thermometer up front. So I'm going to keep that thing 30 minutes. It'll ding at me and I'm going to check everything. So we'll come back. I'll try and get a close-up of what I'm actually seeing when I open it. I usually like to cure it for, I don't know, I like to go for at least a couple cycles in this thing, because you know, longer is not going to do anything to it. It's going to cure once it's cured, and more consistent 200-degree temperature won't hurt it. Once this stuff cures, it's heat resistant to like 400 degrees, so you can't hurt it by doing it longer at all. It's not going to hurt anything. Too short, and that can kind of screw up your stabilization. But anyway, so we'll come back and we'll take a look at it, and we'll see what's going on in about 30 minutes. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes. I did notice that after I put the stuff in, the temperature dropped for a little while, so I had to actually kind of restart, turn up the temperature and monitor it. But once I hit 200 with everything in there, I ran it for 30 more minutes. So I want to give it a look, so I'm going to pull them out, peel back the foil, and we're going to take a peek at what it looks like. So in this bangle core, you can see it's pretty well hardened. I'm going to consider that one done. This one still has a little bit of liquid sitting on it. I don't know if you can see that, especially over here. A little bit liquidy still. I'm going to wrap that guy up and give it another half an hour. That one's still pretty wet. And that one looks pretty well done. That one's good. Alright, so two more. So we'll let the other two pieces cure. They're a little bit thicker, so I'm not actually surprised. And then by taking these other two out, this should work better. Now, when you take a couple things out, you really, again, you got to monitor your temperature, so make sure it doesn't go too high. But overall, these two look good. So I'm going to clean off this excess material, and then this one's actually ready to be mounted as a bangle. You might get a little deforming after this process with the baking and all that. So you might have to kind of true it back up a little bit, but not much. It should be pretty good, and then I'll mount it to the bangle core. So we'll come back when 30 more minutes has passed, and we'll see how these two are doing, and go from there. Okay, so now that I got everything done, you know, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about stabilized wood. Now, it's not completely, you know, it's not never ever going to move, but I mean, you've limited the movement to minute amounts, if any. And I think it would take significant humidity changes to see any possible movement. Now, having said that, stabilized wood is very stable. So, you know, I just want to say that it's not totally waterproof or something like that, but I mean, it's pretty, as long as you've done the process and it is, you know, stabilized, it should give you much better results if you're trying to mount it to mount wood, you know, like in this case, the bangle to a metal core. I won't have any problems with it cracking because of humidity changes or something like that. Now, there are other uses for stabilized wood that I just wanted to kind of cover. You know, Scott Meek over at Scott Meek Woodworks or whatever, he makes hand planes that using stabilized wood. Now, I don't know what process he uses. It may be a little bit more in depth than this, but basically he's using stabilized wood for the wooden body plane blanks so that when he ships them, no matter where he ships them to, they shouldn't move once they get there, you know, because that's one of the issues with wooden body planes. I mean, if you make one in Arizona and then you ship it to Hawaii, they're going to have to fettle that plane a lot, and it's actually more than fettling. They're probably going to have to square it and flatten and do all that stuff. Now, if you use stabilized wood, I would imagine that he's getting much better results, and if there is any movement at all, it's minute and, you know, very simple for his customers to fix. Another use is winding sticks or, you know, tri-squares or, you know, things like that where you really don't want them to move. They're measurement type things in the shop. Lots of, you know, uses for stabilized wood. So I hope that if you're interested in trying it out, you know, give it a shot. It's really not hard. It's not too expensive to get into. There's, you know, you need to get a vacuum chamber. You may be lucky and either find a cheap or already have a vacuum pump. I'd say those are the two big expenses, really. You can kind of do a do-it-yourself type of vacuum chamber. That'll save you some money. And you can get resources from joewoodworker.com. He's got a lot of interesting stuff about vacuum pumps and how to set them up and do all that stuff and save a little bit of money in the process. The other beauty of having a vacuum pump is if you ever want to get into vacuum pressing veneers or something like that, you already got the pump, which is, again, that's one of the big expenses in that stuff. The vacuum bag, they don't cost that much, so you can get into vacuum pressing and do that on the side too. So anyway, I hope that this video was informational, a little bit helpful. If you have any questions, definitely hit me up, Zach at nvwoodworks.com. If you like what you saw and you enjoyed the videos, definitely subscribe to my channel. And other than that, get out there and try stabilized wood. It's pretty cool.